Justin Trudeau's federal government introduced a bill in the House of Commons last week to officially enact a moratorium on crude oil tankers on British Columbia's north coast. It's a move that follows some of his 2015 campaign commitments, and if you recall, this was one of his most excessive moments of virtue signaling. And that's all I believe this ban really is, pure virtue signaling. And that's because if there truly was an economic or environmental case to be made for this ban, Justin Trudeau and his government just aren't making it. In fact, this decision will have tremendous negative economic effects, including for First Nations communities who stood to benefit the most from economic development and a pipeline to our northern port. The ban was met with criticism from one First Nations group, called Eagle Spirit Energy, who are backed by Francisco Aquilini, a Vancouver billionaire, and are proposing a pipeline through northern British Columbia. The Chiefs Council backing the project put out a statement saying, quote, "As chiefs from British Columbia and Alberta, we are very disappointed with the inappropriate actions taken today by Prime Minister Trudeau and the federal government by introducing a tanker ban on Canada's west coast. We feel strongly that a blanket tanker moratorium is not the answer. Once again, government and international environmental lobby groups want to make decisions for our communities instead of us letting us make them." Unquote. Wow, how refreshing is a statement like that from First Nations leaders? But I'm going to guess that you didn't hear a single peep about it anywhere in the media party. How typical. And while the Eagle Spirit project is still searching for financing, this ban will certainly hurt any chances of it getting off the ground, I'd say. And what a darn shame that is. The BC Chamber of Shipping was also none too pleased about the ban, releasing a similar statement of condemnation. Quote, "We do not support the moratorium announced today. It flies in the face of the Oceans Protections Plan. Secondly, the moratorium sends a very harmful signal to the international investment community. Canada is now the first and only country in the world to legislatively ban the trade of multiple commodities." Unquote. Look, the point of this ban is to obviously prevent an oil spill. But guess what? Oil tankers have been operating in and out of British Columbia ports since the 1930s without major incident. And while the ban is only on tankers carrying more than 12,500 metric tons of oil, it would not affect any carrying refined oil products, LNG, or smaller vessels providing diesel fuel for local industry. But those are the very kinds of small vessels that have actually resulted in oil spills over the years, not large tankers. And what's even more hypocritical and confirms that this ban is all about virtue signaling is that for the better part of 50 years, Alaskan oil tankers have been sailing from Valdez, Alaska, all the way down the BC coast, into the Strait of Juan de Fuca and into Puget Sound, right past Vancouver Island, which is home to all those environmentalists, as you know, and into the refineries just south of Vancouver, and some tankers all the way down to California. Trudeau and the Liberals, of course, don't mention this tanker traffic as it is beyond their control to stop it, even if they tried. You know, estimates say that at least 500 tankers a year enter the Strait of Juan de Fuca and Puget Sound. These are shipping lanes that are shared by both British Columbia and Washington State. And I'd be willing to bet the typical Vancouver Island Green Party supporter who is against any increase in tanker traffic with proposed pipelines doesn't even realize that they've had Alaskan North Slope oil sailing by them in tankers for decades. Look, this ban is bad for business. It's bad for First Nations and it's bad for BC. I hope whoever is elected leader of the Conservative Party immediately moves to have this ban lifted as part of the party policy. And while we're at it, let's lift the ban on offshore oil and gas drilling in BC as well. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, click subscribe on our new Rebel Canada YouTube page. It's got all the great Canadian political and conservative stories you love.